The alien ship moved through space like a silver needle cutting through black cloth. Its hull gleamed with strange metals that caught starlight and bent it into rainbow patterns. Inside the ship, Captain Veltar stood on the bridge with his 6 arms crossed behind his back. His large yellow eyes stared at the blue planet growing larger on the main screen. "Another primitive world," said Science Officer Crixon from his station. His voice buzzed through the translator device. "Radio signals detected. Basic satellite technology. They appear to be at development level 2. Veltar nodded his elongated head. In all his years exploring the galaxy, he had seen hundreds of worlds like this one. Young species that had just learned to split atoms and send signals into space. They were always the same: crude technology, simple minds, and easy to control once the Galactic Council decided what to do with them. "Begin standard scanning procedures," Veltar ordered. "Map their cities, count their population, assess their military capabilities. The Council will want a complete report." Far below on Earth, Commander Jake Martinez sat in a control room that most humans had never seen. The room was built deep under the Pacific Ocean, protected by layers of rock and metal. Dozens of screens showed information from around the planet. Jake's brown eyes focused on one screen in particular, the one showing the alien ship approaching Earth. "They're right on schedule," Jake said to Lieutenant Lisa Wang, who sat at the station next to him. "Our long-range sensors picked them up 3 days ago, just like the computer models predicted." Lisa's fingers moved quickly over her keyboard. Numbers and charts filled her screen. "Their scanning pattern matches what we expected. They're looking for the usual things: cities, roads, military bases, everything on the surface." Jake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret that could change everything. "Let them look. They'll see exactly what we want them to see." Above them, the surface world continued, as normal. People went to work in New York and London and Tokyo. Children played in parks. Traffic moved through busy streets. None of them knew that aliens were scanning their planet. None of them knew that their world was about to change forever. The alien ship's scanners swept across Earth like invisible fingers. They detected the heat signatures of major cities, the electromagnetic patterns of power grids, the metal signatures of military bases. Everything looked exactly as expected for a Level 2 civilization. "Interesting," Crixon said, studying his readings. "They have nuclear weapons, but only primitive ones. Their space program is limited to a few orbital stations and some exploration of nearby planets. Population is approximately 8 billion. "Any signs of advanced technology?" Veltar asked. "None detected, Captain. Their computers are basic. Their energy production is mostly fossil fuels with some nuclear and renewable sources. They appear to be having environmental problems, typical growing pains for a species of this level." Veltar relaxed slightly. "Another routine mission, then. The galaxy was full of species like this. Some would be invited to join the Galactic Council as junior members. Others would be placed under protection until they matured. A few would be marked as too dangerous and dealt with accordingly." Deep in his underwater command center, Admiral Ben Clark watched the alien scans on his own screens. The 70-year-old man had spent his entire career preparing for this moment. His gray hair was cut short in military style, and his blue eyes were sharp with intelligence. "Report," he said to Dr. Amy Ross, who stood at a complex control panel. "Holographic projectors are working perfectly," Amy replied. Her red hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and her green eyes showed the satisfaction of someone whose technology was performing flawlessly. They're seeing exactly what we want them to see. Our real cities, our real technology, our real capabilities, all invisible to their scans. And the surface world? Completely unaware. As far as they know, this is just another normal day. The sea. News reports are talking about weather and politics. The internet is full of cat videos and arguments. Perfect cover. Ben nodded. The surface world had to remain normal, not because the people couldn't handle the truth, but because the aliens expected normalcy. Any sign that Earth knew about galactic civilization would trigger immediate intervention. From the Galactic Council, on the alien ship, Crixian continued his scans. He mapped Earth's continents and oceans, recorded the locations of major population centers, and analyzed the composition of the atmosphere. Everything was standard for a planet supporting carbon-based life. "Shall we make contact, Captain?" asked Communications Officer Yixtal from her station. Veltar considered this. First contact protocols were clear. Observe first. Make contact only if the species showed potential for peaceful development. These humans seemed harmless enough, but there was always risk in revealing galactic civilization to a new species. Not yet, he decided. Continue observations for another day. I want to understand their social structures, their conflicts, their capacity for violence. The Council needs complete information before we proceed. Below the ocean, Jake Martinez received reports from monitoring stations around the world. The aliens were being thorough but predictable. They scanned military bases and found weapons that were impressive for a primitive species, but no threat to galactic technology. They analyzed radio and television broadcasts and found the usual mix of entertainment, news, and education that marked a developing civilization. They're following the standard First Contact Handbook, Lisa reported. Exactly like our intelligence predicted they would. Good, Jake replied. That means they don't suspect anything unusual about us. As far as they know, we're just another young species stumbling around our own solar system. The alien scans continued throughout the day. They detected Earth's military satellites, mapped the locations of nuclear weapons, and analyzed the global internet. They found social media posts, news articles, and academic papers. They discovered art and music and literature. They saw a species that was creative and diverse, but still struggling with basic problems like war, poverty, and environmental damage. Veltar read the preliminary reports with growing confidence. These humans were exactly what they appeared to be, a young species with potential but no immediate threat to galactic security. They had the usual collection of problems that came with rapid technological development. Nothing unusual, nothing to worry about. Begin preparing the first contact package, he told his crew. Standard protocols for a Level 2 civilization. We'll make initial contact tomorrow, establish basic communication, and begin the integration process. In his underwater command center, Admiral Ben Clark received the report he had been waiting for. The aliens had completed their initial assessment and found nothing suspicious. Phase 1 was complete. Signal all stations, he ordered. Maintain standard procedures. Continue normal operations. Tomorrow, they'll try to make contact with the surface world. Let them. Our people up there know what to do. As night fell over Earth, the alien ship settled into a stable orbit. The crew began preparing for what they thought would be a routine first contact mission. They had done this dozens of times before with other species. There was no reason to think this would be any different. They were wrong. The morning sun rose over Earth as the alien ship began its detailed planetary scan. Captain Veltar watched the data flow across his screens, feeling satisfied with what he saw. The planet below looked exactly like dozens of others he had surveyed. Over the years, Population centers confirmed, reported Crixon. Major cities include New York, London, Tokyo, and others. Infrastructure appears standard for Level 2 development. Roads, bridges, basic transportation networks. Veltar studied the images appearing on his screen. Humans moved through their cities in predictable patterns, going to work, attending, schools, shopping, and markets. Their vehicles burned fossil fuels and created pollution. Their buildings were made of concrete and steel, functional but not elegant. Military assessment, he asked. Basic nuclear weapons, conventional armies, primitive. Aircraft, Crixon replied. They have conflicts in several regions, but nothing beyond typical territorial disputes. Their weapons could damage their own planet, but pose no threat to galactic security. 3 miles beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Ben Clark walked through corridors that most humans never imagined existed. The underwater city stretched for miles in every direction, home to over 2 million people. The walls were made of transparent aluminum that showed the ocean depths outside. Fish swam past windows, and artificial lights created a warm, welcoming environment. "Status report, Dr. Ross," Ben said as he entered the Central Command Center. Amy looked up from her control station. "Holographic systems operating at full capacity. They're scanning our major surface cities right now, and everything looks perfectly normal from their perspective." Ben nodded and moved to the main display screen. It showed exactly what the aliens were seeing. A version of Earth that looked primitive and harmless. The real Earth, with its advanced underwater cities and hidden technology, remained completely invisible. "Show me what they're missing," he said. Amy's fingers danced over her controls. The display changed to show the true view of Earth. Massive cities covered the ocean floor. Underwater highways connected continents. Fusion power plants provided clean energy to billions of people. Manufacturing facilities churned out advanced technology. Shipyards built vessels that could travel between stars. "They have no idea," Amy said with pride. "Our projection technology is 300 years ahead of anything in their database. To their sensors, we look exactly like a species that just discovered television." On the surface, the deception continued perfectly. In Washington, D.C., President Karen Smith held her daily briefing, discussing trade agreements and environmental policies. In Moscow, leaders debated energy policy. In Beijing, scientists announced a new Mars mission. Everything looked normal because it was normal for the surface world. The surface humans had no idea that aliens were scanning their planet. They continued their lives without knowing that their every move was being analyzed by beings from another star system. This was exactly what Ben and his people wanted. "Excellent," Veltar said aboard his ship. "These humans show good potential. They have art, science, and diverse cultures. Their conflicts are relatively minor. The Council should approve them for standard integration protocols." What Veltar didn't know was that some of the humans he was observing were actually holographic projections. Amy's technology could create false readings that looked completely real to alien sensors. Cities that appeared crowded were actually much smaller. Military bases that seemed primitive were hiding advanced equipment underground. Captain Steve Turner commanded a submarine that was officially listed as a research vessel in the surface world's records. In reality, the USS Liberty was one of the most advanced ships ever built by humans. It moved through the deep ocean using technology that bent space and time, making it completely invisible to alien sensors. "Any sign they've detected us?" Steve asked his crew. "Negative, Captain," replied Communications Officer Kate Brooks. "Their scans are passing right through us. The stealth fields are working perfectly." Steve smiled. His submarine was just one of thousands hiding in Earth's oceans. Each one carried weapons that could destroy entire fleets, but the aliens scanning from above had no idea they existed. The alien crew continued their assessment, growing more confident with each passing hour. These humans had the right combination of curiosity and caution that made for good galactic citizens. They were not too aggressive, not too passive. They seemed ready to learn about the wider universe. Their technology is advancing at a good pace, Crixan reported. They've sent probes to several planets in their system. Their space station is basic but functional. In perhaps 50 years, they might develop faster-than-light travel on their own. Perfect timing, then, Veltar replied. We can guide their development and prevent them from making the usual mistakes young species make. Deep underwater, Ben Clark reviewed the alien ship's scanning patterns with his staff. Every detail had been planned years in advance. They knew exactly what aliens expected to see when they found a primitive world, and they were giving them exactly that. Phase 2 status? He asked. Ready to implement, replied Commander Paul Davis. If they decide to make contact with surface governments, our people are in position. They'll respond exactly as a primitive species should respond, with surprise, fear, and wonder. Ben had been preparing for this moment his entire career. Humanity had learned about galactic civilization 300 years ago when they first intercepted alien communications. Instead of announcing themselves, they had made a different choice. They chose to hide, to learn, and to prepare. The decision had been controversial at first. Many humans wanted to make contact immediately, to join the galactic community as equals. But careful study of alien communications revealed a disturbing pattern. Young species that announced themselves too early were either conquered, enslaved, or placed under permanent protection. None were allowed to develop their full potential. So humanity had split itself in two. The surface world continued developing normally, creating the appearance of a typical primitive species. Meanwhile, the underwater civilization advanced far, beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Fascinating social structures, observed Communications Officer Yixtal as she analyzed human broadcasts. They have multiple languages, diverse belief systems, and complex political arrangements, very promising for cultural integration. The aliens spent hours studying human television shows, news broadcasts, and internet content. They saw a species that was creative and diverse, but still struggling with basic challenges. Perfect candidates for guided development under galactic supervision. What they didn't see were the underwater broadcasting networks that connected the hidden cities. They didn't detect the quantum computers that could process information faster than any galactic technology. They missed the fusion reactors that produced more energy than entire star systems. As the day progressed, Admiral Grace Stone monitored the situation from her command center in the Atlantic Ocean. Like Ben Clark, she commanded vast fleets of ships and millions of people. Her underwater cities were just as advanced, just as hidden. Any change in their scanning patterns? She asked her staff. Negative, Admiral, replied Commander Sarah Johnson. They're following standard first contact protocols exactly. No sign. They suspect anything unusual about our world. Grace allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had been planning this moment for 3 centuries. Every detail had been considered, every possibility prepared for. The aliens thought they had found another primitive world to guide and control. They had actually found the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, one that had been hiding and preparing for exactly this moment. Maintain all deception protocols, she ordered. Let them see what they expect to see. Soon enough, they'll learn the truth. The alien ship continued its scans as night approached. Captain Veltar felt satisfied with the day's work. Tomorrow, they would make first contact with the human governments and begin the long process of bringing another species into galactic civilization. He had no idea that he was about to become part of the most important moment in galactic history, the moment when humanity would reveal that they were no longer hiding. Science Officer Crixon stared at his scanning displays with growing curiosity. The alien had spent 2 days analyzing Earth's land masses and found exactly what he expected, a primitive but promising civilization. Now his attention turned to something that had caught his interest from the beginning. "Captain," he said, his translator device buzzing with excitement, "this planet's surface is 70% water. That's an unusually high percentage. Most inhabited worlds we've surveyed have much less ocean coverage." Captain Veltar moved closer to Crixon's station. The main display showed Earth's blue sphere rotating slowly, its vast oceans clearly visible from space. "Interesting. What do our initial scans show about these bodies of water?" "Basic marine life, Captain. Fish, sea mammals, simple underwater plants. But I haven't done a deep scan yet. These oceans could contain valuable minerals or unusual life forms. The Council would want a complete survey." Veltar nodded. Thorough surveys were required for all new worlds, especially ones that might join the galactic community. "Proceed with deep ocean scanning. Map the seafloor and catalog whatever you find down there." Crixon's four-fingered hands moved over his controls with practiced ease. He had done this hundreds of times on other worlds. Ocean scans usually revealed fish, underwater mountains, and sometimes useful mineral deposits. Nothing too exciting, but necessary for complete planetary assessment. "Activating deep-water scanning array," he announced. "This may take several hours to complete. The oceans are quite deep in some areas." 3 miles below the Pacific Ocean, Captain Steve Turner stood in the command center of the USS Liberty. Warning lights flashed red across his control panels, and alarm sounds filled the submarine's corridors. "Captain!" Communications Officer Kate Brooks called out. "We're detecting powerful scanning beams from the alien vessel. They're penetrating much deeper than their previous scans." Steve felt his heart start beating faster. This was the moment they had all been preparing for, but it was still terrifying when it actually happened. "How deep are they scanning?" "At least 5 miles down." "Sir, their beams are strong enough to penetrate our outer concealment fields. If they continue at this power level, they'll start detecting our installations." Steve immediately activated his emergency communication system. Within seconds, he was connected to Admiral Ben Clark's command center and dozens of other underwater facilities around the world. "This is Captain Turner," he said into his microphone. "The aliens have begun deep ocean scanning. Repeat, they are scanning the ocean depths. All stations report status." Admiral Ben Clark's voice came through the speakers clearly. "Message received, Captain. All stations are to maintain concealment protocols until further notice. Do not, under any circumstances, reveal yourselves unless directly ordered." But, even as Ben gave the order, he knew it might already be too late. The alien scanning technology was more advanced than they had hoped. Dr. Amy Ross worked frantically at her control station, trying to strengthen the holographic fields that hid their cities. "Admiral," Amy said, her voice tight with worry, "their scanners are operating at frequencies we didn't expect. Our concealment fields are holding, but if they increase power by another 20%, they'll start seeing through our projections." Aboard the alien ship, Crixon watched his displays with growing confusion. The initial scans had shown normal ocean floors with the expected underwater mountains and valleys, but as his equipment penetrated deeper, strange readings began appearing on his screens. "That's odd," he muttered, adjusting his controls. "I'm getting some unusual energy signatures from the deep water areas. The readings don't match anything in our database for natural geological formations." Captain Veltar moved to look over Cricksand's shoulder. "What kind of energy signatures?" "Very faint, but definitely artificial. It could be geothermal activity, but the patterns are too regular, too organized." Cricksand's voice carried a note of uncertainty that was unusual for the experienced science officer. Deep in the Mariana Trench, Admiral Grace Stone watched her own warning displays with growing alarm. Her underwater city was one of the deepest human settlements on Earth, but even here, the alien scans were starting to penetrate their defenses. "Report," she ordered Commander Sarah Johnson. "Their scanning power has increased 40% in the last 10 minutes, Sarah replied. "Our concealment fields are straining to maintain coverage. If they push their scanners much harder, we're going to start showing up on their displays." Grace made a decision that would change everything. "Signal all Atlantic Fleet commanders. Prepare for possible revelation protocols. If our concealment fails, we need to be ready to respond immediately." Back on the alien ship, Crickson increased the power to his scanning array. The strange energy readings were becoming clearer, and his scientific curiosity was fully aroused. Whatever was down there in Earth's oceans, it was definitely not natural. "Captain, I'm detecting what appear to be large artificial structures on the ocean floor. The shapes are too geometric to be natural formations." Veltar felt a chill run through his body. Artificial structures meant technology. Advanced technology meant this species was more developed than their surface observations suggested. That could be very dangerous. "Are you certain these readings are accurate?" he asked. "Running verification scans now," Crickson replied. His equipment hummed with increased power as it focused on the anomalous readings. "Yes, Captain. These are definitely artificial constructions. Large ones. Some of them appear to be moving. In underwater cities around the world, human commanders watched their concealment fields begin to fail. The alien scanners were simply too powerful to hide from anymore. 300 years of careful deception was about to end in a matter of minutes. Admiral Ben Clark made the hardest decision of his life. "All stations, this is Admiral Clark. Prepare to drop concealment fields on my command. The deception is over. Repeat, prepare to reveal ourselves." Dr. Amy Ross looked at Ben with wide eyes. "Sir, are you sure? Once we drop the fields, there's no going back. The aliens will see everything. Our cities, our technology, our true capabilities." "I know," Ben replied grimly. "But if we're going to be discovered anyway, better to control how it happens. Signal Captain Turner and Admiral Stone. Tell them to prepare their fleets for emergency surface protocols." Crickson's scanners suddenly penetrated through the weakening concealment fields and detected something that made him freeze in shock. His displays showed massive structures covering the ocean floor, cities that stretched for hundreds of miles, connected by transportation networks that defied his understanding of primitive technology. "Captain," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "you need to see this. These aren't just artificial structures. They're cities, enormous cities, and they're populated." Veltar looked at the display and felt his world shift. The images showed underwater metropolises that were clearly advanced, clearly inhabited, and clearly far beyond anything a Level 2 civilization should possess. "How many inhabitants?" he asked. Crickson worked frantically at his controls, his scientific training overriding his shock. Scanning now, Captain, these cities contain millions of inhabitants, hundreds of millions. The energy output from these facilities is enormous. Impossible, Veltar breathed. Our surface scans showed only 8 billion humans total. Where did these populations come from? The answer came in the form of more scanner readings, hidden shipyards building vessels of unknown design, manufacturing, facilities that operated with technology beyond galactic standards, energy production that dwarfed anything in Veltar's experience. Captain, Crixan said, his voice shaking, I don't think this is a primitive civilization. I think we've found something else entirely. Admiral Ben Clark took a deep breath and gave the order that would end humanity's 3-century deception. All stations drop concealment fields. Full revelation protocols are now in effect. Let them see who we really are. Around the world, holographic projectors shut down. Energy fields that had hidden entire civilizations faded away. The true Earth began to reveal itself to the shocked alien observers above. Captain Veltar watched his displays in growing horror as Earth's oceans came alive with technology and civilization far beyond anything his species had ever achieved. He realized with dawning terror that he hadn't discovered a primitive world at all. He had found something much more dangerous. The ocean surface began to change in ways that Captain Veltar's mind struggled to process. What had appeared to be empty water just moments before now revealed structures rising from the depths like mechanical mountains emerging from the sea. Blessed ancestors, whispered Crixan, his 4 eyes wide with disbelief. Captain, the entire ocean floor is covered with artificial structures, cities, manufacturing complexes, transportation networks. This isn't possible for a Level 2 civilization. Captain Veltar watched his displays with growing alarm as Earth's true nature revealed itself. Energy readings that had been hidden moments before now blazed across his screens like stars. The power output from the underwater cities was staggering. More than most galactic civilizations produced from entire star systems. How did we miss this? Veltar demanded. Our scanners are the most advanced in the galaxy. No primitive species should be able to hide technology like this from us. Before Crixan could answer, the ocean surface itself began to part. Massive platforms rose from the depths, shedding water like waterfalls as they climbed toward the sky. Each platform was the size of a city, covered with buildings and installations that gleamed with advanced technology. Admiral Ben Clark stood in his command center and watched 3 centuries of careful planning come to an end. The concealment. Fields were completely down now, and Earth's hidden civilization was revealing itself in all its glory. There was no going back. Signal all surface fleets, he ordered. Begin emergency ascent protocols. Show them everything. Around the world, the ocean surface came alive with activity. Submarines that had hidden in the depths for decades began surfacing. Not just a few vessels, but hundreds, then thousands. Each one represented technology that the aliens had never encountered before. Captain Steve Turner felt his submarine rise through the dark water toward the surface. The USS Liberty had been his home for 20 years, but this was the first time it would see sunlight. Around him, his crew worked with practiced efficiency despite the historic nature of the moment. Approaching surface, Captain, reported Kate Brooks. All systems functioning normally. Stealth fields are completely down. Take us up, Steve ordered. It's time the galaxy met the real Earth. The first submarine to break the surface was followed by another, then another. Soon the ocean was filled with vessels emerging from the Depths, like mechanical whales coming up for air, but these were not crude submarines like the surface world used. These vessels moved with impossible grace, their hulls gleaming with materials that bent light and absorbed energy. Aboard the alien ship, Communications Officer Yixtal struggled to make sense of the readings flooding her instruments. "Captain, I'm detecting thousands of vessels surfacing simultaneously. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. These ships are using technology we don't understand." Veltar felt a cold fear settle in his stomach. Advanced technology meant advanced weapons. Advanced weapons meant this species could potentially threaten the galactic order. Everything about this situation violated first contact protocols. "Signal. Fleet command immediately," he ordered. "Emergency transmission. We need backup. This is not a level 2 civilization." But even as he gave the order, more impossible things began happening on his displays. The underwater cities weren't just revealing. Themselves, they were rising. Entire metropolitan areas lifted from the ocean floor and began floating on the surface like massive islands. Admiral Grace Stone commanded one of the largest floating cities as it breached the surface. The Atlantic metropolis housed over 5 million people and contained technology that could terraform entire planets. As it rose above the waves, its energy shields activated, creating a shimmering dome of light around the city. "Status report," Grace called to her staff as water poured. "Off the city's protective barriers. All systems nominal, Admiral," replied Commander Sarah Johnson. "City is stable at surface level. Population is secure. All defensive systems are online and ready." Grace nodded grimly. The revelation was proceeding perfectly, but she knew this was just the beginning. Soon the aliens would recover from their shock and begin asking hard questions. Humanity needed to be ready with answers. On the alien ship, Crixon's voice cracked with stress as he reported the impossible readings flooding his sensors. "Captain, the energy output from these floating cities exceeds the total power production of our home system. That's impossible. No single planet can generate that much energy." "Keep scanning," Veltar ordered, though part of him wanted to flee immediately. "I need to know what we're dealing with here." The ocean continued to reveal its secrets. Shipyards rose from the depths, their massive construction bays clearly visible even from orbit. Manufacturing complexes surfaced, their fusion reactors glowing like miniature suns. Transportation hubs emerged, showing tunnel systems that connected. Underwater cities across entire continents. But perhaps most shocking of all were the weapons platforms. Massive installations covered with technology that radiated power beyond anything the galactic military possessed. Arrays of devices that could bend space and manipulate gravity. Energy projectors that could destroy entire fleets with a single blast. "Sir," Yixtal said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I'm detecting weapon systems with power outputs that exceed our strongest battleships by a factor of thousands." Veltar realized with growing horror that his exploration vessel was completely helpless against what lay beneath him. If these humans decided to attack, his ship would be destroyed before he could even attempt to flee. Deep in the Pacific, Admiral Ben Clark made the decision to open communications. The revelation was complete. Earth's hidden civilization was now fully visible to the aliens above. It was time to start talking. "Dr. Ross, activate the primary communication array. Use their own language." It's time they knew who they're really dealing with. Amy's fingers flew over her controls as she established a direct communication link with the alien vessel. The message would be transmitted in perfect Zephyrian, making it clear that humanity understood galactic languages and technology. Aboard. The alien ship Yixtal jumped as her communication board suddenly came alive with an incoming transmission. The signal was stronger and clearer than anything their ship could produce, and it was using their own language with perfect grammar and pronunciation. "Captain," she said with shock in her voice, "we're receiving a transmission from the planet. It's in our language, sir. Perfect Zephyrian." Veltar felt the last of his assumptions about this world crumble away. "Put it through to the main speakers." Admiral Ben Clark's voice filled the alien bridge, speaking in fluent Zephyrian, with an accent that suggested deep knowledge of galactic culture. "Greetings, Captain Veltar of the Zephyrian Exploration Service. My name is Admiral Ben Clark of the Earth Defense Force. I believe we need to talk." The fact that the human knew Veltar's name and ship designation sent chills through the alien crew. It meant these humans had been monitoring galactic communications for a very long time. It meant they knew far more about galactic civilization than any primitive world should know. "How do you know our language?" Veltar managed to ask. "We've been listening to galactic communications for over 300 years, Ben replied calmly. "We know about the Galactic Council, the exploration, protocols, and the integration procedures for new species. We know exactly what you expected to find when you came here." Around the alien ship, more vessels continued to surface. Not just submarines now, but ships of designs that defied understanding. Vessels that moved without visible propulsion, craft that seemed to phase in and out of reality, platforms that manipulated gravity to float above the water. "We also know," Ben continued, "what typically happens to species that reveal advanced technology too early in the contact process. That's why we've been hiding, Captain. That's why we built our civilization underwater, where your standard scans wouldn't detect it." Veltar realized that everything his species thought they knew about first contact was wrong. The humans hadn't been primitive at all. They had been deliberately deceiving the galactic community, preparing for exactly this moment. "What do you want?" he asked, though he feared the answer. "To talk," Ben replied simply. "To discuss Earth's place in galactic civilization as equals, not as subjects. You came here expecting to find primitives to guide and control. Instead, you found a civilization that may be more advanced than your own." As if to emphasize the point, the ocean around the alien ship suddenly filled with vessels beyond counting. Submarines, surface ships, underwater cities, floating platforms, technology that represented centuries of hidden development and preparation. Captain Veltar looked at his displays and realized that everything had changed. The galaxy would never be the same. Science Officer Crixon stared at his sensor displays in complete disbelief. Numbers scrolled across his screens faster than he could read them, each one representing another vessel emerging from Earth's hidden depths. What had started as hundreds of ships surfacing had become thousands, then tens of thousands. "Captain," he said, his voice shaking, "the readings can't be correct. My sensors are detecting over 100,000 vessels now, and more are still emerging." Captain Veltar moved to Crixan's station and looked at the displays himself. The numbers seemed impossible, but the visual confirmation was undeniable. The ocean surface for hundreds of miles in every direction was filled with ships of every size and design imaginable. "Keep counting," Veltar ordered grimly. "I need exact numbers for my report to Fleet Command." In the deep Pacific, Commander Paul Davis led his fighter squadron toward the surface for the first time in their operational history. The sleek vessels moved through the water like dolphins, their advanced propulsion systems allowing them to transition seamlessly from underwater to airborne flight. "Red Squadron, this is Commander Davis," he said into his radio. "Prepare for surface breach. Remember, this is not a combat mission. We're here to demonstrate our capabilities, nothing more." His squadron of 24 fighters broke the surface in perfect formation, water streaming from their hulls as they activated their atmospheric flight systems. Each fighter was roughly the size of a surface world's bomber aircraft, but their technology was centuries ahead of anything the aliens had in their database. "Blue Squadron, surface and take position," came another voice over the radio. Then another squadron and another. Soon the sky above the ocean was filled with human aircraft that moved with impossible grace and speed. Aboard the alien ship, Communications. Officer Yixtal watched her detection screens with growing panic. "Captain, aerial contacts now numbering in the thousands. These aircraft are using propulsion systems that violate several known laws of physics, but the aircraft were just the beginning. As Admiral Ben Clark's revelation protocol continued, massive underwater hangars opened across the globe. These weren't simple storage facilities. They were construction yards that had been building ships for 3 centuries. Admiral Grace Stone stood on the bridge of her flagship as it rose from the Atlantic depths. The UES Democracy was a dreadnought, the size of a small city, its hull gleaming with armor that could withstand the pressure of deep space or the crushing depths of Earth's oceans. "Signal the fleet," she ordered Commander Sarah Johnson. "All vessels surface and take formation. Show them what 300 years of preparation looks like." The Atlantic Ocean came alive as Grace's fleet revealed itself. Battleships that dwarfed anything in galactic navies surfaced alongside the dreadnought. Cruisers with energy weapons that could crack moons took their positions. Destroyers that moved faster than most species fighters formed protective screens around the larger vessels. "Sweet cosmos," breathed Crixon as his sensors registered the new vessels. "Captain, I'm reading ships with individual power outputs greater than our entire battle fleet. How is this possible?" Before Veltar could answer, the Pacific Ocean began revealing its own secrets. Captain Tony Miller's experimental vessel Ocean's Edge emerged from the depths using technology that made Crixon's instruments go completely wild. "What's that ship doing?" Yixtal asked in confusion. "My sensors show it's there, then not there, then somewhere else entirely." Tony's ship was demonstrating humanity's mastery of dimensional technology. The Ocean's Edge could phase between dimensions, making it effectively invisible to conventional weapons and sensors. It was just one example of the advanced science that humans had developed during their centuries of hidden preparation. Commander Jake Martinez coordinated the global revelation from his command center beneath the Pacific. Status reports flowed in from every ocean as hidden fleets surfaced simultaneously around the world. "Indian Ocean Fleet reporting full surface deployment," came one report. 237 vessels now visible to alien sensors. "Arctic Fleet confirming emergence," came another. 184 ships surfaced and taking defensive positions. "Antarctic Research Fleet has breached surface," reported a third voice. 96 vessels now operational above ice shelf. Jake watched the numbers climb on his master display. The aliens' initial estimate of humanity as a primitive species was being shattered by the revelation of the largest military force the galaxy had ever seen. Back on the alien ship, Crixon's voice cracked as he delivered his latest report. "Captain, current vessel count has exceeded 500,000. I repeat, 500,000 confirmed ships of various classes. Veltar felt his legs go weak. 500,000 ships was larger than the combined fleets of the entire Galactic Council. No single species in known history had ever fielded such a massive force. "Are you certain of that number?" he asked desperately. "Confirmed and rising. Captain, my sensors are detecting new vessels emerging every few seconds. These aren't just military ships either. I'm seeing research vessels, colony ships, manufacturing platforms, mobile cities, and vessel types I can't even classify." Dr. Amy Ross monitored the revelation from her control station and felt a deep satisfaction watching 3 centuries of human ingenuity display itself to the shocked aliens above. Every ship surfacing represented years of careful planning and advanced engineering. "Admiral Clark," she reported, "global fleet deployment is proceeding ahead of schedule. Current count stands at 700,000 vessels and climbing." Ben nodded grimly. The numbers were impressive, but he knew they were about to get much more impressive. "Signal Phase 2 deployment. Release the deep storage fleets." Amy's fingers flew over her controls as she sent the signal to facilities that existed in the deepest parts of Earth's oceans. Storage hangars that had been sealed for decades began opening, releasing ships that had been held in reserve for exactly this moment. The Mariana Trench, the deepest part of Earth's oceans, suddenly came alive with activity. Massive doors opened in the seafloor, revealing storage facilities that extended for miles into the Earth's crust. From these deep vaults came humanity's most advanced vessels, experimental ships with technology that pushed the boundaries of known science. Contact. Count now approaching 1 million vessels. Crixan reported, his voice barely above a whisper. "Captain, this is the largest fleet in recorded galactic history, by several orders of magnitude." Veltar looked at his displays and realized that his exploration mission had become something else entirely. He wasn't just observing a primitive species anymore. He was witnessing the emergence of what might be the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. "Admiral Clark," he said, opening communications with the human commander. "What you're showing us, this changes everything. The Galactic Council will need to completely reassess their policies regarding Earth." Ben's voice came back calm and measured. "That's exactly what we hoped you would realize, Captain. Humanity has been preparing for this moment for 300 years. We knew that revealing our true capabilities would be necessary eventually." "But why hide at all?" Veltar asked. "With technology like this, you could have joined the galactic community as a major power from the beginning." "Because we studied your history," Ben replied. "We learned what happens to species that reveal advanced technology too early. They're either conquered by jealous neighbors or forced into subjugation by the Council itself. We chose a different path." As if to emphasize his point, more fleets continued to surface. The final count reached over 1 million vessels of all types and sizes. Ships that could travel between galaxies, vessels that could manipulate time and space, craft that operated on principles the aliens couldn't begin to understand. "Admiral." Greystone opened her own communication channel to the alien ship. "Captain Veltar, my name is Admiral Greystone of the Atlantic Fleet. What you're seeing here represents only a portion of humanity's true capabilities. We have shipyards on every continent and in every ocean. We have manufacturing facilities that can build a vessel like yours in a matter of hours." "This is impossible," Yixtal whispered. "No species develops technology this advanced without the galactic community knowing about it." "Humans did," Ben Clark replied, having overheard the comment. "And now you have a choice to make, Captain. You can report back to your council that You found a primitive species ready for guidance and control, or you can tell them the truth, that you've discovered a civilization that may be more advanced than any in the galaxy. Veltar looked at his sensor displays one more time. Over 1 million ships. Technology beyond galactic standards. A species that had been preparing for first contact for 3 centuries. Everything had changed, and there was no going back. Admiral Ben Clark stood before the main communication screen in his underwater command center, preparing to deliver the most important speech in human history. On the other end of the transmission, Captain Veltar and his crew waited in shocked silence aboard their exploration vessel. "Captain Veltar," Ben began, his voice calm and measured, "I believe it's time you learned the true history of humanity's relationship with galactic civilization." The Admiral gestured to Dr. Amy Ross, who activated a holographic display system. Images began appearing on screens throughout the alien ship. Historical records, communication intercepts, and documentation that told a story the galaxy had never heard before. 317 years ago, Ben continued, human scientists at our deep space monitoring station in the Antarctic detected the first alien communications we had ever encountered. It was a routine patrol report from a Zephyrian survey ship, much like your own vessel. The holographic display showed the original intercept, primitive by current standards but revolutionary for humanity at the time. Captain Veltar watched, with growing amazement, as the humans displayed technology that could decode encrypted galactic communications. Our scientists spent decades learning your languages, studying your technology, and monitoring your civilization's communications networks. We learned about the Galactic Council, the various species under its control, and most importantly, we learned about first contact protocols. Crixan leaned forward in his chair, fascinated despite his fear. "You've been spying on galactic communications for over 3 centuries? Monitoring," Ben corrected gently. "We were trying to understand what we would face when contact was finally made. What we discovered changed the course of human civilization forever." The holographic display shifted to show historical records from the galactic database. First, contact reports from dozens of species over the past millennium. Each record told the same basic story. Primitive species discovered, evaluated, and either integrated as junior members or placed under protective control. We studied the fate of every species that had made contact with galactic civilization. Ben continued, "The pattern was always the same. Young civilizations that revealed advanced technology too early were seen as threats. They were either conquered by other species or subjected to permanent oversight by the Council." Admiral Grace Stone's voice joined the conversation from her Atlantic Command Center. The Korthak Rebellion of 2387 was particularly instructive. A species much like ours developed faster than light travel independently and announced their presence to the galaxy. Within 50 years, they were extinct, destroyed by a coalition of older species who saw them as a threat to galactic stability. Veltar felt a chill run through his body. The Korthak Rebellion was taught in galactic history classes as an example of what happened when young species developed dangerous technology without proper guidance. He had never considered that the Korthak might have simply been defending themselves. "The Venetian Confederacy tried a different approach," Ben continued. "They hid their true capabilities and presented themselves as a peaceful, primitive species. The Council welcomed them with open arms and immediately placed them under protective supervision that lasted for 400 years. They were never allowed to develop their full potential." Dr. Amy Ross stepped forward to address the alien crew directly. We realized that announcing ourselves honestly would result in either our destruction or our permanent subjugation. So we made a different choice. We decided to prepare. The holographic display showed the early days of humanity's great deception. Construction of the first underwater cities, development of advanced concealment technology, and the careful division of human civilization into surface and hidden populations. The surface world continued developing normally, Amy explained. They created the appearance of a typical primitive species: nuclear technology, basic space travel, environmental problems. Everything the galaxy expected to see from a young civilization. Meanwhile, Admiral Greystone added, our hidden civilization advanced far beyond galactic norms. We had advantages that other species lacked. A planet that was 70% water, providing perfect concealment, and a unified government that could coordinate long-term planning. Commander Paul Davis's voice joined the conversation from his fighter squadron. We also had motivation that other species didn't have. We knew what was coming. We knew we would eventually be discovered. We had centuries to prepare for exactly this moment. Crixon studied the historical data with scientific fascination. Your deception technology is remarkable. How did you hide energy signatures this massive from our scanners? 3 centuries of dedicated research, Dr. Amy Ross replied with pride. We developed holographic projection systems that could fool any scanner in the galactic database. Our concealment fields operate on principles that your science hasn't discovered yet. The display showed technical specifications that made Crixon's head spin. Energy manipulation techniques, dimensional phasing technology, and gravitational masking systems that were centuries ahead of anything he had studied. But why reveal yourselves now? Veltar asked. You could have maintained the deception indefinitely. Because deception was never our end goal, Ben replied firmly. We want to take our place in galactic civilization as equals, not as subjects. But we needed to be strong enough to demand that equality rather than simply hoping for it. The conversation was interrupted by reports from human fleets around the world. The revelation was complete, and over 1 million vessels now floated openly on Earth's oceans. The largest military force in galactic history was fully deployed and ready for whatever came next. Your fleet, Veltar said, gesturing toward his sensor displays. This represents more military power than the entire Galactic Council possesses. You could conquer half the galaxy if you chose to. But we won't, Admiral Greystone replied immediately. Conquest was never our goal. We built this fleet for defense, not aggression. We want to join galactic civilization, not rule it. Ben. Clark's image on the communication screen leaned forward slightly. Captain, we're sharing this history with you because we want you to understand our position. We're not primitive barbarians who stumbled onto advanced technology. We're a mature civilization that has been preparing for this moment for over 3 centuries. We know your laws, your customs, and your political structures, Dr. Amy Ross added. We speak your languages fluently. We understand galactic economics, diplomacy, and military doctrine. We're ready to be full participants in galactic society. Commander Sarah Johnson's voice came from the Atlantic Fleet. What we're not ready for is subjugation. We won't accept protective supervision or guided development. We've already developed beyond the need for either. The alien crew sat in stunned silence as they absorbed the implications of what they were hearing. This wasn't just first contact with a primitive species. It was the emergence of a potential galactic superpower that had been hiding in plain sight for centuries. The choice now is yours, Captain, Ben concluded. You can report back. to your council that you've discovered a species that might be more advanced than any in the galaxy. A species that's ready to take its place as an equal partner in galactic civilization. Or, Admiral Greystone added ominously, you can try to treat us as a primitive species to be guided and controlled, in which case you'll learn exactly why we spent 3 centuries building the largest fleet in galactic history. Veltar looked at his sensor displays one more time, seeing the million ships that surrounded his small exploration vessel. The humans were offering partnership, but they were also making it clear that they had the power to enforce their terms if necessary. What happens now? He asked quietly. Now we talk, Ben replied. We discuss Earth's entry into galactic civilization as an independent equal member. We negotiate trade agreements, defense treaties, and cultural exchanges. We do all the things that civilized species do when they meet as equals. The communication screen showed Admiral Ben Clark standing surrounded by the technological marvels of humanity's hidden civilization. Behind him, through transparent walls, the lights of underwater cities stretched to the horizon. Welcome to Earth, Captain Veltar, Ben said with a slight smile. The real Earth. Now let's discuss the future. Captain Veltar stared at the human admiral on his communication screen with a mixture of fear and disbelief. Admiral Clark, what you're claiming is impossible. No single species could develop technology this advanced without galactic oversight. There must be some explanation. Ben Clark's expression remained calm and patient. Captain, I understand your skepticism. The galactic community has operated under certain assumptions about technological development for thousands of years. Those assumptions are about to be challenged. With respect, Admiral, Veltar replied, extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. What you've shown us could be elaborate deception technology. How do we know this isn't all some kind of holographic illusion? Ben smiled slightly. A fair question, Captain. Dr. Ross, prepare for Demonstration Protocol 7. Captain Turner, are you ready? From the depths of the Pacific, Captain Tony Miller's voice crackled over the radio. Experimental ship Ocean's Edge standing by for dimensional demonstration, Admiral. Admiral Ben Clark turned back to the alien communication screen. Captain Veltar, please focus your sensors on the vessel designated Ocean's Edge. You'll find it approximately 10 kilometers off your starboard side. Crixon quickly adjusted his scanning equipment and located the human vessel. It appeared on his displays as a sleek ship roughly the size of a galactic cruiser, but with design elements that defied conventional engineering principles. Target acquired, Crixon reported. Ship appears to be using standard propulsion. Nothing unusual detected. Watch carefully, Ben said. Aboard the Ocean's Edge, Captain Tony Miller activated systems that no galactic civilization had ever developed. Dimensional phase drive coming online. Beginning demonstration sequence. The alien crew watched their sensors in amazement as the human ship simply vanished from normal space. One moment it was there, the next it had completely disappeared from all detection systems. Where did it go? Yixtal asked in panic. My sensors show nothing. No energy signature, no mass reading, nothing. The ship has shifted into dimensional phase, Ben explained calmly. It exists in a parallel dimension, where your sensors can't detect it, but it can still observe and interact with our normal space when necessary. As if to prove the point, the Ocean's Edge suddenly reappeared directly above the alien vessel, having moved several kilometers instantaneously. Then it vanished again, only to reappear behind them, then to their port side, then below them. Impossible, breathed Crixon. That would require mastery of dimensional mechanics that we've only theorized about. The energy requirements alone should be beyond any ship-mounted system. Commander Johnson, are you ready for the gravity demonstration? Ben asked. From the Atlantic Fleet came the reply, UES deep current standing by, Admiral. Gravity manipulation. Systems are online. Commander Sarah Johnson's ship was a testament to humanity's advancement in fundamental physics. The deep current could manipulate gravitational fields with precision that allowed it to perform maneuvers that violated everything the aliens thought they knew about space combat. Observe, Ben said simply. The aliens watched in shock as the deep current began moving in ways that defied physics. It accelerated instantly to incredible speeds without any apparent reaction mass. It turned 90 degrees without slowing down, then reversed direction while maintaining the same orientation. The gravitational readings around that ship are impossible, Crixan reported with awe in his voice. It's creating localized gravity fields that bend space-time. That level of gravitational control should require the mass of a small star. Our fusion reactors are somewhat more efficient than galactic standard, Ben replied with understatement that would have been humorous if the situation weren't so serious. But the most impressive demonstration was yet to come. Admiral Grace Stone's voice joined the conversation from her massive dreadnought. Admiral Clark, should we show them the manufacturing capabilities? Proceed, Admiral Stone. The alien crew watched their sensors as something impossible began happening in the ocean below them. Massive underwater manufacturing platforms activated, their fusion reactors blazing like miniature suns beneath the waves. What are they doing? Down there? Veltar asked nervously. Building a ship, Ben replied casually. From raw materials to finished vessel in approximately 6 hours. Would you like to observe the process? Dr. Amy Ross activated the holographic display system, giving the aliens a real-time view of humanity's manufacturing technology. Robotic systems moved with impossible precision, assembling components that materialized from molecular-level fabricators. The construction rate is extraordinary, Crixan observed. Our best shipyards require months to build a vessel of that size. How are you achieving such rapid assembly? Molecular engineering, Dr. Amy Ross explained. We build our ships atom by atom using quantum fabrication technology. What you're seeing is actually one of our slower manufacturing processes. To prove the point, Amy activated another facility. This one produced a complete fighter craft in less than 20 minutes, assembling it from basic elements pulled directly from seawater. The implications of this technology, Veltar said slowly, are staggering. You could replace your entire fleet faster than we could destroy it. Precisely, Admiral Grace Stone replied. Which is why we're not particularly concerned about threats from galactic military forces. We can outbuild any enemy faster than they can engage us. The demonstrations continued throughout the day. Human ships showed abilities that seemed like magic to the alien observers. Vessels that could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Ships that manipulated time itself, arriving at their destinations before they left their starting points. Platforms that could convert energy directly into matter, creating new resources from empty space. Your reactor technology alone, Crixan said with scientific fascination, produces more energy than some systems in our space. How is this possible? Controlled micro-black holes, Dr. Amy Ross explained. We've learned to create and contain gravitational singularities that provide nearly unlimited energy. Each major ship carries enough power to run a galactic civilization. Commander Paul Davis demonstrated the capabilities of humanity's fighter squadrons. His aircraft moved through atmosphere and space with equal ease, transitioned between dimensions, to avoid enemy fire and carried weapons that could crack planetary crusts. The fighter craft are using some kind of inertial compensation, observed Yixtal. They're pulling maneuvers that should turn their pilots into paste, but the occupants appear unaffected. Gravitational compensation fields, Paul's voice replied. Over the radio. We don't feel acceleration because we control the local gravitational environment around our ships. Makes for much more interesting dogfights. Perhaps most impressive of all was the revelation of humanity's defensive capabilities. Energy shields that could deflect attacks by redirecting them into other dimensions. Armor that repaired itself instantly using nanotechnology. Point defense systems that could track and destroy thousands of incoming projectiles simultaneously. Chopper. Defensive systems on that dreadnought, Crixen reported with awe, could probably withstand a direct hit from our planet-killer weapons. The energy absorption capacity is beyond our measurement capabilities. We've had some unfortunate experiences. With planetary bombardment in our past, Admiral Greystone replied grimly. We made sure it would never happen again. As the demonstrations continued, Captain Veltar began to understand the true scope of what his species was facing. This wasn't just advanced technology, it was technology so far beyond galactic norms that it might as well be magic. Admiral Clark, he said finally, I need to ask directly. Could your species conquer the galaxy if you chose to? Ben considered the question seriously before answering. Yes, Captain. We could. Our technology is centuries ahead of anything in the galactic database. Our manufacturing capacity could replace any losses faster than they could be inflicted. Our defensive capabilities make us effectively invulnerable to conventional attack. Then why haven't you? Veltar asked. Because conquest was never our goal, Ben replied firmly. We built this capability to ensure our freedom, not to dominate others. We want to join galactic civilization as equals, not rulers. But you could rule if you wanted to, Veltar pressed. Yes, Admiral Greystone answered bluntly. We could, and every species in the galaxy is going to have to live with that knowledge. The alien crew sat in stunned silence as they absorbed the implications. They had stumbled upon a species that could potentially reshape the entire galactic order, but chose not to. What happens now? Veltar asked quietly. Now you report back. To your council, Ben replied. You tell them exactly what you've seen here, and then we all find out whether galactic civilization is ready to accept humanity as an equal partner, or whether they prefer to test our defensive capabilities, Admiral Greystone added ominously. The demonstrations had served their purpose. The aliens now understood exactly what they were dealing with. The question was whether the rest of the galaxy would be wise enough to accept the new reality. Captain Veltar stood alone on the bridge of his exploration vessel, staring at the vast human fleet that surrounded his ship. 3 days had passed since the revelation began, and he still struggled to process the magnitude of what he had discovered. His crew worked quietly at their stations, all of them sharing his sense of being overwhelmed by events beyond their understanding. Captain, Communications Officer Yixtal said softly, We're receiving another transmission from Admiral Clark. Put it through, Veltar replied, though part of him dreaded what new revelation might be coming. Admiral Ben Clark's image appeared on the main screen, looking as calm and composed as ever, despite having just revealed the most advanced civilization in galactic history. Captain Veltar, have you had sufficient time to process what you've witnessed here? Admiral, Veltar began carefully, what I've seen challenges everything my species believes about technological development and galactic civilization. I need to ask you directly, what are your intentions toward the rest of the galaxy, Ben? Leaned back in his chair, considering the question with the seriousness it deserved. Captain, Humanity has been preparing for this conversation for over 3 centuries. We've had a long time to think about our place in galactic civilization. Dr. Amy Ross appeared beside Ben on the screen. Our analysis of galactic politics shows a system that has remained stable for thousands of years through careful management of technological advancement. Young species are guided and controlled to prevent them from disrupting that stability. That system worked when all species developed along predictable paths, Admiral Grace Stone added, her image joining the others. But humanity represents something new. A species that developed far beyond galactic norms while remaining hidden. Veltar felt a chill of fear. And you intend to disrupt that stability? We intend to change it, Ben corrected. The current system works by keeping young species weak and dependent. We propose a different approach, true partnership between equals. Before Veltar could respond, Science Officer Crixan spoke up from his station. Admiral Clark, with respect, partnership requires trust. How can the galaxy trust a species that spent centuries deceiving everyone about its true nature? It was Commander Paul Davis who answered from his fighter squadron. How can we trust a galaxy that destroys or enslaves every species that shows real potential? We hid because your history told us that honesty would mean our destruction. The Korthak Rebellion, Admiral Grace Stone said grimly. The Venetian subjugation, the Talvar extinction. Should I continue listing species that were eliminated because they threatened galactic stability? Veltar winced. Those were all historical events taught in galactic academies, but they were usually presented as unfortunate necessities rather than deliberate suppressions of advancement. What are you proposing? He asked. A new model, Ben replied. Instead of a galaxy divided between rulers and subjects, we propose a true confederation of equal partners, species working together based on mutual benefit rather than hierarchical. Control. Dr. Amy Ross activated her holographic display, showing a political model that was radically different from current galactic structure. No more senior and junior members, no more protective supervision, no more guided development. Just sovereign species cooperating as equals. The technological advantages would be shared freely, added Commander Sarah Johnson from the Atlantic Fleet. Our manufacturing techniques, our energy systems, our defensive technologies, all available to species that choose cooperation over domination. Crixan leaned forward with scientific curiosity, overriding his fear. You would share technology. That gives you such overwhelming advantages? Technology is not what makes us strong, Ben replied firmly. What makes us strong is our willingness to prepare, to sacrifice, and to stand together. Those qualities can't be shared through technology transfer. Captain Steve Turner's voice joined the conversation from his submarine. We're offering the galaxy a choice, Captain Veltar. Accept us as equals and benefit from cooperation with the most advanced civilization in galactic history, or maintain the old system and face the consequences. What consequences? Veltar asked, though he feared he already knew the answer. We will not be conquered, Admiral Grace Stone stated flatly. We will not be placed under supervision. We will not accept subordinate status. If the galaxy cannot accept us as equals, then the galaxy will have to accept us as something else entirely. The implication was clear. Humanity was offering partnership, but they were prepared to enforce their independence if necessary. The Galactic Council will never accept this, Yixtal said quietly. The current system has maintained peace for millennia. They won't abandon it based on threats from one species. They're not threats, Ben corrected gently. They're facts. The old system is finished, Captain. The existence of our civilization proves that species can advance beyond galactic control if they have sufficient motivation and preparation. Other species will learn from our example, Dr. Amy Ross added. How long before another civilization decides to hide and develop in secret? How long before the galaxy faces multiple hidden superpowers instead of just one? Commander Paul Davis brought up another crucial point. The galaxy can adapt to the new reality, or it can try to fight it. But fighting us means fighting a species that spent 3 centuries preparing for exactly that possibility. The alien crew exchanged worried glances. They were beginning to understand that this wasn't just first contact with a powerful species. It was the beginning of a complete transformation of galactic civilization. What about the surface world? Crixan asked. The primitive humans who don't know about galactic civilization? They'll learn gradually, Ben replied. Full disclosure will take time, but our surface population deserves to know about their place in the galaxy. They've been living a lie for 3 centuries. That ends now. Captain, Admiral Grace Stone said, addressing Veltar directly. We're not asking for your approval or permission. We're informing you of decisions that have already been made. Humanity is taking its place in galactic civilization as an independent, equal partner. The question, Ben continued, is whether the rest of the galaxy will accept that reality peacefully, or whether they'll force us to demonstrate why challenging us would be inadvisable. Veltar made the hardest decision of his career. Admiral Clark, I need to return to Fleet Command immediately. This situation is far beyond my authority to handle. Of course, Ben replied understandingly. Take whatever time you need, but understand that our patience is not unlimited. We've been preparing for this moment for 3 centuries. We're ready to move forward with or without galactic approval. What about my ship? Veltar asked. Will you allow us to leave? Captain, Ben said with genuine surprise, you were never our prisoners. You're free to go whenever you choose. We're not at war with the galaxy. We simply refuse to be subjugated by it. As if to emphasize the point, the 1,000,000-ship human fleet began moving aside, creating a clear departure corridor for the alien vessel. However, Admiral Grace Stone added, when you return, you won't be coming back to the same galaxy you left. Word of our existence will spread. Other species will begin questioning the current system. Some may even attempt to follow our example. Change is coming whether the Council wants it or not, Dr. Amy Ross concluded. The only question is whether that change will be peaceful or violent. Captain Veltar took one last look at his sensor displays, seeing the vast human fleet that surrounded his tiny exploration vessel. Over 1,000,000 ships, each one representing technology beyond his understanding, all commanded by a species that had been hiding their true nature for 3 centuries. Admiral Clark, he said formally, I will report exactly what I've seen here. The Galactic Council will make its own decisions about how to respond. That's all we can ask for, Ben replied. Safe travels, Captain. And remember, humanity extends an offer of friendship and cooperation to all species willing to treat us as equals. As Veltar's ship began moving away from Earth, Admiral Ben Clark stood in his command center and watched the alien vessel disappear into hyperspace. Around him, the underwater city hummed with activity as humanity prepared for whatever response the galaxy might send. Think they'll accept the new reality? Dr. Amy Ross asked. Some will, Ben replied thoughtfully. Others will try to maintain the old system through force. They'll learn why that's not advisable. And if they send fleets against us? Admiral Grace Stone asked from her own command center. Then they'll discover what happens when a species has 3 centuries to prepare for war, Ben answered grimly. But I hope it doesn't come to that. We'd prefer cooperation to conquest. Around Earth, the million-ship fleet maintained its positions, ready to defend humanity's right to independence or to enforce the new galactic order if necessary. The age of humanity hiding in the depths was over. The age of humanity among the stars had begun. In the depths of space, Captain Veltar's ship carried news that would reshape galactic civilization forever. Behind him, Earth continued its rotation, its oceans now openly revealing the civilization that would change everything. The galaxy would never be the same.